Thank you, Ted. Thank you very much. Our next speaker, Captain John Doswell. He's a waterfront events producer and consultant. He's the founding chair and director of the Friends of Hudson River Park. He's a trustee of Save Our Ships New York, representing the historic vessel John J. Harvey. He's a trustee of the North River Historic Ship Society. He's also the executive director of Working Harbor Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain John Doswell.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Dave. I'm very proud today to be in the company of Peter Stanford, who is the founder of the South Street Seaport Museum. Thank you, Peter. As well as all of the dedicated and talented volunteers that are today former employees and great supporters of the South Street Seaport Museum. Thank you. Ever since I came here, which was in the 60s, the South Street Seaport has been an integral part of what, for me, made New York and New York Harbor great. And of course, as you know, many, many years ago, this very spot all along here would have been filled with tall ships from all over the world with goods. Somewhat later, break bulk steamships lined our piers all the way around, and then goods came from the Midwest by barge from the Erie Canal to the Erie Basin, which is just south of here, and fresh seafood came in by boat just north of here to the market. Unfortunately, they're all gone. Just about the time I came to New York City, shipping transformed to containers, and the containers all went to New Jersey, where they had a lot of upland area. And somewhat after that, the fishing boats went away to be replaced by trucks. But one thing has remained, the South Street Seaport Museum. A reminder as well as a celebration of the maritime history of New York, which is what made this city what it is today. Without this history, we wouldn't even be here. And without this museum and its collection of tall ships and vessels, that history would be lost. I can't imagine New York City without the museum and these ships any more than I can imagine the city without the Statue of Liberty or the lights of Broadway. But here's the rub. After years and years where New Yorkers lost their connection to the waterfront and the waterways, today New York City is just now rediscovering and planning for the waterfront with a new comprehensive 10-year waterfront plan that they just completed last year. But what's ironic is even as we're rediscovering our waterfront, we're now faced with the prospect of losing a maritime museum, which was one of our very best connections to the water for the past 50, 60 years. A long time, and that's been it. And when I say the museum, I'm really thinking what comes top of mind are the ships, the magnificent tall ships, Bay King, Waver Tree, historic lightship Ambrose, Chandler lighter Marion M, and the historic Helen McAllister, and perhaps most of all the working boats, the two schooners, Lenny G. Howard, Pioneer, and the best looking and my very favorite historic tug in the city, W.O. Decker. These vessels are the very heart of the museum and its connection to the waterways and the harbor. And I have to mention something. These vessels don't just magically appear here like characters in a Hollywood movie. They're here thanks to the thousands and thousands of hours of hard work, mostly from volunteers, sanding, sweating, tarring, and rigging right here on these historic working piers. Regarding the three working boats, there's no reason why they can't operate and take people out as they've done for years this summer. Recently, I reached out to the museum management on behalf of MWA for City of Water Day, which is on the 16th of July, just as they've done in the past. What a great statement it would be if they would appear again. Their boats are sitting there in the water idle. The volunteers are here to operate them. We could do it. And people are constantly asking me, can I get a ride on a tugboat? Last year, Working Harbor Committee, which Peter Stanford also founded, kept W.O. Decker pretty full on Fridays with hidden harbor tours. We could do that again and more. The vessels are ready, the crews are ready, and all that's needed is the will and the leadership to make it happen. So our message is clear. 2 points. We cannot lose this museum and what it stands for, and we must keep the vessels alive and working. This is a message that we need to telegraph to everyone, the museum's leadership, the City of New York, to our elected officials, and to everyone in the region. As we work to revitalize our magnificent harbor and waterfront, we must make sure that this priceless treasure remains a vital part of it, as it has been for years. Thank you.
This was not only a shipping center for the United States, it has also been a printing center. And we'd like to introduce our next speaker from Friends of Bowne, a volunteer at Bowne Shop, a graphic designer, a native New Yorker, Laura Pooh Nicholas.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, is this better? Yay. Okay, hi everyone, my name is Laura Nicholas. I was a volunteer at Bowne & Co. Stationers and one of the organizers for Friends of Bowne, which is a similar advocacy grassroots campaign, but for the stationery shop. And I first want to thank SOS for inviting us to this rally and to participate, and for the last few months collaborating with us to see how we can sort of help each other in our efforts, and now including us, a couple shout outs from people. That's very nice. So I thought I'd speak a little bit about what Bowne was and what Friends of Bowne is and what we're doing. Bowne, little known fact to many of the public, was part of the Seaport Museum. It was a print and stationery shop on Water Street. It was a little one with the red door and the sort of cobbled section north of Fulton Street. And the museum actually established it, or opened it, in 1975 to interpret, as David was saying, the city's printing history, which was centered in the area around the seaport, and it was one of the trades that supported the shipping industry, or the seaport industry. So the museum opened it, and it chose as its model a recreation of a small printers and stationery shop as it would have been in 1875. And in fact, it has a real model, which was a stationery shop that was founded in 1775 by a man named Robert Bowne, and that's the name of his company, and that's the name it is today. And it was opened in 1975, which was actually a bicentennial of the original opening. So anyway, there's a little bit of history, even just in the establishment of the shop. And the shop itself was, I guess, a living, well, we've been calling it a living exhibit. So you could walk in, and stepping into the shop was like stepping into 1875, and the experience was as if you were a customer walking into a stationery shop in the late 19th century. And in that sense, it really was, an immersive historical environment, very much like stepping onto one of the ships. It really takes you back in time. And as I said, it was to sort of be like a customer. You could go in and you could purchase greeting cards and other ephemera that was printed right in the shop, as it would have been in 1875. The printer, the master printer, the last one was Doug Klaus, who's here. He would be, yay, at the presses actually creating things that were for sale in the shop. And the shop also took commission orders, so custom stationery, business cards, invitations, and posters. So in addition to being a living exhibit where you could walk in and see all of the antique collection items in use, it was also an actual commercial working business. And finally, it was also a resource for students and researchers interested in printing and type history. So the collection actually that was being used to produce things was itself antique, largely from the late 19th century. And the collection itself, just the extensive the number of specimens it had, is extremely unusual. And to have it be publicly accessible to students and researchers who want to get a better look is really one of a kind. I don't think we could overstate that, especially in New York City and even in the world. It's really a very special resource in that sense. And for all those reasons, when the shop was suddenly closed by the museum on, incidentally, Valentine's Day, we were very surprised and very concerned about that collection and the sort of, unique value that it really represents. And we were worried that in the absence of any communication from the museum about their plans for the place, that the collection was really at risk. And it was as a result of that we started Friends of Bowne. Like I said, a very similar grassroots campaign. We just sort of started online on Facebook, and we have a blog. And And suddenly we had over 400 supporters, and we thought we should really do something about that. So earlier this month, we put on an exhibit of works that were created at Bowne to get people really excited about what the possibilities are of what can be made there. And we also have a petition online, and actually in person, if anyone wants to sign, see me after, and you can sign it. And we are also very similar to SOS, asking people to send letters to government officials. Our last big act was to send a batch of 400 signatures to a number of city and state officials last week. So we're excited for them to hear from us, and we're going to continue to do the same. And then on a final note, just a comment about SOS. When I first spoke to the organizers of SOS, who are now on the steering committee, I didn't know any of them or of you. And funnily enough, I had never really been on the ships, and a lot of the SOS people had never even been into Bowne, but just the encouragement that they've shown us and we tried to reciprocate has been really encouraging to us. Just the fact that we were invited here today and that you're all here and that people are interested in it is really, really an encouragement to us. And I think when the shop first closed in February, we were a little bit concerned about Bowne staying a part of the Seaport Museum because we had no reason to believe that anything was going to change or that would ever be valued, but SOS's effort has completely changed our opinion on that, and we're very excited to keep working with you. So thank you.